Jarrod, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm pumped to talk to you. I mean, everyone probably in South Australia who is a sports fan will know exactly who you are because you're all over the place. And what you do, I mean, you're just brilliant at what you do. And if you don't know this, you probably do, but 75% of the population have a fear of public speaking, which makes what you do even more incredible. So I thought I'd start there and ask how on earth you got to be so good at speaking.
Well, that's very kind of you, Jackie. I'm very grateful to be on here because I listen to your podcast. So to actually be a guest, it means a lot. So thank you very much for the invitation. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Like I've always, if I look back at like growing up as a kid, I always wanted to be in front of a camera for some reason. My dad worked in radio, so I was always around a radio studio, just practicing. Like it was kind of second nature. But I think the ability to speak publicly, it had a lot to do with just taking a bit of a risk. And I started like emceeing to crowds at nightclubs. And I did it to know people. So I would actually go to in South Australia, there's a pub called the Alma, which is on McGill Road, where everybody used to go, apart from the night that I was emceeing and my friend was DJing. So what that allowed us to do was to have a bit of fun, take a few risks, feel like less pressure. And what that does is that allows you to test your boundaries on certain things. I always tell people that that work in community radio. So they see community radio, there's a couple of mentalities you can have. You can have a mentality of, oh, I'm in community radio, all I want to do is get to commercial radio and work at one of the big stations, which in theory sounds great, but in community radio, there's no restrictions. As soon as you get to commercial capital city radio, there's restrictions everywhere. So it's like your training ground to practice what works well for you, to work on your style. And most importantly, like tap into yourself to be authentic, because there's lots of MCs out there. There's lots of radio announcers. You want people to go, I know exactly your style, your presentation, because when the microphone's on, you're the same person as it is when it's off, but you're projecting your voice a little bit differently.
So how long were you in community radio?
I wasn't in community radio.
Oh, you weren't?
That's the thing.
No,
that's the thing.
Right.
No, but
so you practiced at the Alma where there was no one.
Yeah, but the reason I raised community radio was because I never wanted to be on the radio. So like I crashed like the most important station vehicle that we had. It cost the company $150,000. And the basically, well, there's a big antenna, and I crashed into power lines at West Beach one night, and the power lines went over the front of the van. There were ambulance, police officers, fire brigade, and they literally said, like, if you got out of the vehicle, you would have died, because there were live wires everywhere. So then the next day, where I was freaking out about losing my job when everyone else was freaking out about me losing my life, the bosses said, we can't really have you driving the cars at the moment. And I'm like, that's sweet. And they said, do you want to have a go on the radio? I'm like, yeah, no worries. But because of my mindset of not wanting so much to be on the radio, I was just myself. And for Nova at the time, I was at Nova for 16 years. They thought, oh, this is a really nice fit for someone, and the way that they wanted the station to go, because they wanted someone to sound casual, relatable, and not like your traditional radio jock that goes, all right, yeah, coming up in 10 minutes, you're going to hear some Justin Bieber, get some icy cold cans of Coke from the Black Thunders. All right. I couldn't do that.
Really? Because you just proved you're pretty good at it.
Yeah. So it was, I think but using, like, having a radio studio at your disposal, hence the community radio thing. Whenever people came into the station, I said, the most important thing you have right now is a security pass to the building. That's what, because you've got everything at your disposal. So go in, try stuff, take a risk, because the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work and you learn from it.
Yeah. Recently, I had the chance to participate in one of your courses, which was great fun. And so I've been following you for a long time. I'm a big sports fan, so I've been to many games in South Australia when I was there. So I knew who you were, but I didn't know you. And during the course, you told your story growing up. And that to me was, I mean, it made me respect you even more. But then you're a big, obviously, you're a media personality now, right? And I think as people on the outside looking in, we can very much place our own judgments on people when we have got no idea. And so understanding your story gave me more respect for you. Can we start there for a moment and can you tell us a bit about you growing up?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Tasmania with a normal kind of family. I've got an older sister who's 3 years older than me, and we had a really nice, comfortable life. My dad was in radio in Tasmania, but as any child goes through, I got pretty badly bullied at school, physically and verbally. There were sometimes the bullies would even ring up my house and prank call and just burp into the phone. And my mum, the hard thing was that my mum, being a parent, would try and confront the bullies, but then that would increase the bullying. I once got hit in the head with a hockey ball on the hockey field in Tasmania. My mum ran onto the field because obviously she wanted to check if I was alive. The next week I got called a mummy's boy. And I'm going, hold on, I'm concussed here. And it was a really weird thing. It was like you see in the movies, you're literally catching the school bus and no one wanting to sit next to you and they're bullying you. So from that, I started developing tics, as in I would open my mouth until it split on the side of my mouth. When I get really nervous, and it still happens as an adult sometimes, I'll start sniffing and just go, just randomly. And so my mum took me to see a specialist, and they diagnosed me with a mild form of Tourette's, and they had connected that to the bullying of how tormented I was. So for me, the difficult thing was I never really had really close friends at school. And then towards the end of 1999, my dad came home and said, "Hey guys, we're moving to Adelaide." What? And I was 15, and my sister was just about to turn 18. So for that, then I didn't want to, because I was going into grade 10 at school. I didn't want to move my family over there. I'd never been to Adelaide before. The only thing I'd heard about Adelaide is that it was hot and the Royal Adelaide Show had a roller coaster. And I mean, when you come to Adelaide and you see the Mad Mouse, what it was, that's not a roller coaster, Jackie. So that's the Tasmanian version of a roller coaster. So everything's bigger. So anyway, so the way that the timeline happened was it wasn't a, hey, do you want to move to Adelaide? It was, we are moving to Adelaide. So we had my sister's 18th birthday party. The next day, my dad and I flew to Adelaide for the first time. The day after that, I started school. And the day after that was my birthday. And I came home from my first day of school, walking along Henley Beach, crying, saying to my dad, I had a horrible time. All I want to do is go out to those guys who are playing in the water and hang out with them because I want friends. And it just didn't happen. So starting off in a new city and having no friends, being affected by bullying. And then it happened here in South Australia too, because I was obviously from Tasmania. So there's incest jokes. It's a standard kind of high school humor that people think's hilarious without realizing the impact it has on people. And that's fascinating in itself, which I'll get to in a sec. But from that, my whole life and my focus was to please the bullies. And that translated through to university, for my professional life as well. And with my semi-okay profile in Adelaide, I tend to attract certain people coming into my life that aren't real friends, but I'm better at it now. But I was definitely, I was pretty naive, and I thought I had lots of really good friendships from people that I didn't. So my whole mantra was basically to try and please the people that didn't like me, and I'd forget about the people that did. And I missed this whole sense of value and purpose. And I kind of just floated along. And then on the night of my 21st birthday party, my dad decided to leave the family at the party. So that in itself was like another defining moment where I'm going, oh, jeepers, this is my night celebrating my 21st. My mum's crying and she's like, oh, I'm just so happy for you. But the next day I found out it was because dad told her at the party he's leaving. I'm like, oh. So there's a lot of stuff that builds up into value, purpose, who I am as a person, and what the hell am I doing? I know it's a very long-winded answer to your question, but yeah, there's a lot that has a lot has kind of happened to lead to where I am today.
Well, yeah, let's dive into that, because where does then, because you mentioned, you know, who you are and, you know, what that meant for you and value. Let's talk about value and self-worth. How did that eventually, you know, come about for you? And how's that shaped the way you then move forward in life and you know, when you're tackling those harder situations?
Yeah. So the difficult thing for me with value and where I thought my path was in life, I think every person grows up wanting to emulate what their family or parents do. So my whole childhood, I was exposed to seeing athletes and media personalities, like in Tasmania, you know, like I'd go to the cricket in Tasmania and the Australian cricket team would come and shake my hand and know me by name. Like we had Ian Healy, who was the former Test wicketkeeper. He came to our house for dinner. Like it was just normal for me. So I was really comfortable in that environment. But as soon as dad left the family, that my mentality of I wanted to do something in the media or within sport, that vanished, because I wanted nothing to do with my dad's name. And that I think was like, as an adult now, and as you know, I've got a wife and kids, I understand that relationships don't work, but it's how you handle the situation which defines you. And I don't think my dad handled it that well. I know you're not my therapist, but I'm being completely honest. So everything that I did was like, I don't want anything to do with sport. I don't want anything to do with the media, but it still kept coming towards me. And it was a really weird situation. But I also see in pride, everything that I've done in my career, I've done myself. So I don't speak to my father, and we sometimes cross paths, but everything that I've done is something that I've done within myself, which I'm really proud of, because I haven't had to go, oh, he's Peter Walsh's son. So then going through like my career and values, I've had to learn a lot along the way. And that's, I think, being open and honest enough to actually say, this is what I'm going through. People are getting better at it now. But if you look at the past 10 years, men especially, they don't say they're not doing okay. And it's a really, it's a real shame, because it's a really confronting and vulnerable position to be in, to go, hey, I'm struggling today. Let's talk about it. Some people can't handle that. They're not prepared to handle it. So I try to put myself out there enough for people to go, okay, this is a safe place. And it took a lot of time for me to do that. Speaking to counselors, within my workplace, it was understanding that relationships aren't defined by the four walls that you work in. And that's a really difficult thing. So my journey of value and purpose is actually understanding myself more, and understanding that it's not something you can flick a switch and go, cool, here's my value, here's my purpose. That changes every day. Like that has to evolve with everything. So it's a continual journey.
Yeah. That's so huge, understanding who you are, because I think all of us struggle with that. So I know obviously you've given us, you know, basically everything you've been through. How do you then understand who you are? Like, what parts of you do you go, well, yeah, actually, that's really me. I'm confident in that. My actions there are good. Or can you look at what you have done in the past and go, yes, that's me. No, I don't like that. Moving forward, I'll do this differently. Like, how do you become, that self-aware?
Well, it's a really bizarre thing because I still have to wear a mask a lot of the times. So this, like I've said to you this before, like life is about moments, right? So I've had so many big moments where everybody on the outside would see these as great, fantastic moments, that I'm the one leading these moments. But internally, I'm going through some of the worst moments of my life. So I'd have an argument with my wife. Like we, at some stage, we're close to separation. Then I have to turn a microphone on and pretend everything's fantastic. When I lost my job at Nova, 2 days later, I had to go MC a Port Adelaide match, and I had to pretend everything was okay. And just before the microphone went on, someone came and gave me a hug, and I was all teary. But then you go like that. The Adelaide United had their season launch. The day before that, I was told that, and it sounds wanky, but basically with breakfast radio, if your name is in the show, that's the big, your name's in spotlight, all this kind of stuff. So I was told by the bosses that my name was going to be in the Dylan and Hayley breakfast show, which was over here in Adelaide on Nova. Then a week later, they told me it wasn't. And then they basically said, hey, you can go back to your old job, but you're going to affect someone else's job. So that would be pretty poor, wouldn't it? So I'm like internalizing and shaking. But then I had to go, g'day everyone, welcome to Adelaide United's season launch. And then the microphone turns off and I just fall into a heap. So it's the ability to find your network of people to say, I'm not doing okay. And that's what I find now. The people that I have the best connection with in life are the ones that I can ring up and go, hey, I'm struggling today, let's talk about it. The ones that trust me with their story and vice versa, I find that really good. But also in purpose and understanding who you are, it's the little things for me that make a huge difference that I don't think are communicated enough. So at the end of every season that I work with at, say, Port Adelaide, I'll make sure I send the people who have hired me a gift to say thank you. Because ultimately, and I got a call the other day from one of them saying, why did you do that? You didn't need to do that. We love what you do for us. But for me, everything in life is an opportunity, and they are entrusting me to represent their brand, their fans, their club, their community, and anyone else could be doing that. So the fact that they have chosen me to do that, I always continually want to express gratitude, because there's going to be a day I'm not going to be representing that club in an official format. And I want them to go, that was, it's like, it's the legacy that you leave and how you want to be remembered, which for me is really important. One day someone could be your boss. One day someone could be involved in your life. It's just making sure people understand it. When you're an MC or working within a higher profile job, you're the end product of all the hard work that goes into it. So on a Port Adelaide match day, there's a camera operator, there's a floor manager on the ground with me, there's an audio engineer, there's someone upstairs in my ear show calling. There's about 50 people, but I'm the one on the screen. Without those 50 people, I wouldn't be doing my job. So they all need to make sure that they feel valued and part of the whole package.
Yeah, absolutely. Gratitude, it's huge, and it brings you back to the moment as well. So,
yeah.
Well, let's talk more about what you do, because you're bloody good at it. So we may as well go there.
Thanks.
Bringing your A game, how do you prepare? What's your process?
So I'm really lucky that I'm really passionate about the things that I do. That the first thing for me is, do I give a shit about this? And that is a real make or break thing for me. If I'm not connected to what I'm talking about, then there's no point me doing it. So I'll give you an example, right? And this is hopefully Netball South Australia aren't listening. So tonight I've got to go and host the Netball South Australia Awards Gala. They send a script. I haven't looked at it yet. And it's on in 7 hours. So, but I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to take a deep breath and tell you why, okay? It was a fantastic season for the Adelaide Thunderbirds because apart from the whole COVID thing, we had a couple of really close victories, including one at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre where we beat the New South Wales Swifts. Now, the year before, we actually had a draw against them, but this game, it was awesome. The crowd was massive. We had a huge subway activation. Shamira Sterling played her 50th game and it was incredible. But then you get back to Netball SA Stadium, we had a couple of close losses. The issue with Suncorp Super Netball at the moment is they've just had their collective bargaining agreement. So basically everyone was out of contract. The past 2 weeks, people have been signing contracts and they're all on board, which is fantastic. But the focus of tonight is not just to make sure that the Thunderbirds are mentioned because they are the golden child of Netball South Australia. We need to talk about the Premier League and reserves. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Premier League match was incredible. Both games decided by a goal. There was this one player in the Premier League who plays for Contacts. Her name is Sam Simmons. She is ex-basketball, but she's too old to play basketball in South Australia. So she played 6 games for Contacts. She got a goal on the whistle and they won. The game before that, it was South Adelaide taking on Matrix. South Adelaide hadn't won a premiership. And they were so close, they had a goal on the whistle. But the thing about netball is if the ball is in the air when the final buzzer goes and it goes in, no, thank you. It has to be through the goal. So there's going to be a big celebration of those 3 leagues tonight. I've got to thank Subway. We've got this thing called Chime Live, which is the online streaming thing. So that a minute of dribble, right, means that if someone asks me why I'm there tonight, I can tell them because I care. If I get to a point
displayed just then, and that is why you do what you do.
Well, the thing is, if I went there tonight and I'm like, where's my script? I need my script, then I'm not doing it right. So I need to be invested. I need to actually care about what I'm doing because I love, there's a really big difference between speaking at someone and speaking with someone. There's such a massive difference in that. So I need to make sure that whenever I host an event, I'm just one of the audience, but I've just got the microphone. That's the only difference between me and the audience. And I notice that with MCs, I really do. With my biggest pet peeve is MCs or hosts that don't pronounce names correctly. Like, it's not difficult. Just ask the person, just get it right. Exactly. I find it disrespectful when they get names
Hugely.
wrong. And it's so easy to actually just either like contact the sports team or I'll message someone directly and go, hey, say your name to me. Now, I've had to say names for like Malaysia in the soccer. There's a guy, his name Mardikian, and I had to go and double check that because I didn't want to say a rude word. But my buzz is going up to the Iraq football team manager and listing off their names, and they go, yeah, very good.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you. So the preparation is in the passion for me.
Yeah.
It's being connected to what you're talking about. So every team that I represent, I am passionate about and I follow the journey. But also adding that personal flavor of, again, being yourself. The self-deprecating term, I'm fine with having a laugh at myself because it's quite like it's disarming in a way. If I get up there and have a laugh at myself, people know straight away that I don't have ego or arrogance and I'm there just to enjoy the night.
Yeah, actually that's definitely something that I've noticed, at the games that I've been to. Like you just said, you are kind of one of us. You're the fan that gets to be out there.
Yeah.
It's very cool. So what about when you get to, well, let's just say you're doing an interview and it's not going so great. Like, how do you manage these moments that are not going the way you'd like them to go?
I think it's understanding the tone of the interview and your boundaries as a person. So when I interview a player at a sporting match, I've got enough of a relationship with the player for them to know I'm not a hard-hitting journalist. So I'm not also going to put the players in an uncomfortable position. Normally, if we have a player ready to go at the end of a game, or if it's just an interview via social media or something like that, if I get a minute beforehand, I'll say, here's some of the stuff I'm going to ask you. But sometimes it can backfire. Like I did an event 2 weeks ago at a local soccer club, and Dean Brogan, who's a premiership player for the Port Adelaide Football Club, he was there. And I think he thought I was just going to ask him some pretty light, fluffy football questions, but I asked him some pretty deep questions about transitioning from basketball to football, not getting selected in the starting five. What's his take on players at the moment? Obviously, his era is different to this era. And you could tell he was trying to think of what to say, because I think he thought he was just going to get a light, fluffy, fun interview. But again, for me, it's how you handle the responses. So I could have just gone through the awkwardness, or I handled it by saying to Dean, "You didn't expect to have this kind of interview, did you, mate?" And he laughed, and the whole crowd laughed. I'm like, awesome. So there's a bit of togetherness with it.
Yeah.
I've done interviews before where we interviewed Block Party. So a band from UK, big band, and Kelly, their lead singer, came in. And this is when I was living in Melbourne, and my co-host didn't really research anything. I wasn't passionate. So Kelly started talking. Now, Kelly has a stutter. My co-host didn't know. So Kelly started saying, "We can't wait to be at the gig." And my co-host, thinking he was having a laugh, went, what? And he's like, "I'm sorry, I've got a stutter." And you go,
oh no.
How do you recover from that? So I had to play the part of, so she doesn't do her research, but I do, mate. Let's move on. It was very awkward, obviously. We also had an interview with the Coots, so one of my most favorite bands, and they're from the UK. Luke Pritchard is like basically a younger version of Mick Jagger. And she said to him, "You've got a very UK sound about you." And he's like, "That's because we're from the UK, love." Yeah, so I think like
you're like, yeah, it's just an icebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be an active listener to what they're saying, because I always find that if someone says to me, like, "Here's 6 questions," I go, "Cool. Well, that 6 is going to become 12, because I'm going to form questions from some of their answers. I don't want this to be just a Q&A. I want to actually show that I'm listening to what they say and acknowledge it and go, you just mentioned that. Let's move into this area." So it's I want people watching on a big screen or listening or viewing on social media to be a fly on the wall in a conversation, and not a quick, hard-hitting chat.
Yeah, exactly. With those situations, is there any nerves, anxiety, like what goes through your head, before doing it, during when something like that happens, and then afterwards?
I've been caught out once before. So I get nervous at times when something is quickly thrown my way and I'm not prepared. So at the Women's World Cup, the cricket, back 2 years ago, just before COVID hit, we're at the SCG, and Australia were playing against South Africa. Now, the winning side would go through to play India in the final. Now, it rained all day, and we thought there was going to be no game. So we're literally sitting there all day, just waiting, and they got a game done. Anyway, Australia wins, they go through to the World Cup final, and I'm standing there and a player gets thrown to me to interview. And at this point, I knew players by name, by number, but not by face. So I've turned to my left and I'm like, and they've gone 3, 2, 1, cue Jarrod. I'm like, and we've got one of the victorious Australian players here. And then while she's speaking, I've put my head back a little bit to see if I could see the name on the back of her shirt, but she wasn't facing me. And then in my ear, one of the guys says, "It's Delissa Kimmins." So at that point, I said in my next question, "Now, Delissa, you played really well," just so she knew that I knew who she was. So sometimes like that, like I'm not flawless. There's certainly times that I get caught out with local football here in South Australia with the Sandful. It's really easy to go to AFL listed players or previously AFL listed players, because I know them. Some of them know me, not like Nigel Smith, who's a tradie during the day, but plays for Woodville West Torrens on the weekend. I can't go up and speak to him. However, I want to go up and speak to him because I want them to be in the spotlight instead of just the AFL listed players who have always been in the spotlight.
Well, since you brought it up, I mean, you're doing the Sandful and you like, under 18s, reserves, league, like going through all of them.
Yeah.
How do you prep for, you can't know every single person of every single team playing. I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think the prep and the research goes into, I've got a small window of quarter time, halftime breaks to educate the crowd. So this is how I prepare for it. Looking at the under 18s, the great thing about the under 18s is that there's some incredible talent there that in a few years' time will be playing AFL. So if I look at the under 18s now, a couple of years ago, there was a guy playing for Woodville West Torrens whose name is Kasai Pickett, who's playing in a grand final for Melbourne this weekend. You go back, Jack Lukosius, who plays for Gold Coast Suns, Isaac Rankin, who's at Gold Coast, Connor Rosie. These all kids were playing under 18. So my mantra is we are watching the future of South Australian football right here. Then you go into the reserves. It's players that were close to making the league side. So in the Sandful, reserves and under 18s, Glenelg and Woodville West Torrens finished 1-2 in those 3 leagues this year. So that's tough for spots absolutely everywhere, but there's always people to watch out for. There's Horn Francis, who plays for South Adelaide, who is meant to go number 1 in the draft. He's playing tonight, or if you're listening to this podcast in a year, on Friday, the 24th of September, 2021.
We've scrapped it.
It was a fantastic game. Well done. So it's finding some of those stories in it too. And then again, I make sure I watch all the games. So the option is at quarter time on the screen, there will be a graphic that says the score. I don't want to work with that. It's obvious what the score is. I want to say in a game last week, there was a celebration by a guy, Lonigan, who his teammates jumped on him and knocked him to the ground. So everybody saw that. So I'm making sure I'm reflecting what the crowd are watching too. I don't just want to be there and go, here's the score next quarter really soon. So it's just immersing yourself in it. I don't watch much under 18s football throughout the year, but leading up to it, I want to find the kind of storylines and where people have been. And Sandful are really good. They trust me. So they just say, look, we trust, and having trust from your employer and your business to be yourself and guide it, it removes any kind of doubt in your mind.
Huge. There's a Adelaide United.
Yeah.
Memorable game for you.
Yeah.
Sure. Can you tell us that story and then what goes through your mind afterwards?
Yeah. So this was back in 2015 where Adelaide United we lost the first 7 games of the season. So we were winless after 7 matches, and then we started winning, and it was amazing. We started winning, then there was a chance we were going to play finals, and then for some reason we made the semi-final at home. And coincidentally, at the same time, my mum and my wife said, let's go back to Tasmania just to go for the weekend. Tasmania is a beautiful place. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you go as a kid and you go as an adult. As an adult, it's so incredibly different. And it's beautiful. They'll get electricity one day because there's not much, it's seriously not much to do there, but that's what I love about it. So I'm what has been described as a catastrophic thinker. So I convince myself of the worst because it prepares me mentally. And then if the best happens, I go, that's a good feeling. But if the worst happens, I go, I've prepared for this. I knew it. I play field hockey, and we won every game of the season a couple of years ago. I'm like, we'll lose the grand final. It's going to happen. It's going to be heartbreak, but we won. And I'm like, that's awesome. So I'm preparing for Adelaide United to lose. And I said to my mum, we're going to lose. It's fine. No brainer. Tassie, we're up at halftime. Mum's in the stands. I message her, hey, looking
about that trip.
Okay for Tassie. Yeah. Then we win, and I'm celebrating, like, woo, Tassie. Mum was absolutely fine, and I managed to actually tick both boxes. So I flew back from Tassie on the Sunday, got up at 4 a.m. There's no direct flights from Hobart to Adelaide at this time, so I have to go Hobart, Melbourne, Adelaide, straight to the venue, and I was really nervous. So Adelaide is quite an event city. So we rock up to things and then we don't rock up to things. If there's a big event though, so there were 50,000 at the A-League Grand Final for Adelaide United. The next home game they had the following season, there were 8,000 there. So it just shows that we like to immerse ourselves in big events. So I was really nervous. And Adelaide United have this chant, which I've kind of started myself a few years ago. I'll say Adelaide and the crowd says United. And so my line said, Adelaide Oval, now is our time. And then for some reason, I just went, Adelaide. And then at that point, I thought, no, that's good. No one heard that. No one heard that. Keep going. Bang, bang, bang. The team wins. That was one of the greatest nights of my life because my best friends have come from Adelaide United. So I'm always grateful to the club because I've met people, and we have a WhatsApp group where there's 8 of us. We were all in Adelaide, and now I'm the only one. So everyone's gone off on their different ways, but we've kept in touch, and it's the most beautiful thing. And they all took me into the change rooms after the game to do their celebrations, and I didn't feel worthy. I was on the team bus the next day. Like it was unreal. What wasn't unreal was the next morning when I look online and there's a meme that says when you go through puberty in front of 50,000 people. So it definitely happened, and it went viral. But I could handle that in 2 different ways. I could just pretend it didn't happen, or I could embrace it and go, this is my brand. I'm the voice break guy. So I did embrace it. And I love that now at all events, if my voice breaks, I get a cheer. And if like my voice doesn't break, people social media me and go, why didn't your voice break tonight? Don't you care as much? Because this is something you said on your socials the other day. Like, why am I nervous? Why do I feel this way? My voice broke because I was so passionate and I cared and I was nervous. So again, I was the supporter with the microphone.
Yeah.
So many other people's voices would have broken, that like I'm the one that people heard. So I think it was a really nice moment again to go, that's my moment to really define my style of presenting is a reflection of me still. And that's where I'm the most accessible person when people want to get in touch or chat to me. Some guy sent a message yesterday saying, hey, we've got a thing coming up really soon, like a soccer awards. Do you mind sending a video to the coach? I'm like, yeah. So I'll show you it, actually. I'll show you because I have no idea about this soccer club. So I was just at home. It goes for 1.5 minutes. So I'll put the microphone up here and I'll hold it up here, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Gug, you big thug. Jarrod Walsh here, mate. You've probably got no idea who I am, and that's totally fine. It's just the boys couldn't afford to get anyone to send one of those cameo kind of videos. So here I am. Mate, congratulations, you big gugster. 3 in a row. The 3-peat, the Gug, the Guggaroony. Go, 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 go. It's amazing, bro. Well done winning the Div 12 or whatever it is for, Adelaide Red Blue Eagles. How many bloody colours do you want, mate? Adelaide Red Blue Eagles. Go Adelaide Red Blue Eagles. The Rainbow Eagles. Your team loves you. You're a bloody legend. I don't want to sound too cliche, but it's a game of 2 halves and you're great at what you do, Gug. So well done, bro. It's inspirational. Unlike the video of you attempting to drink beer out of the trophy, that was really pathetic, Gug, and that's not what 3-peat coaches do. So well done on the record, and well done the Adelaide Yellow Green Eagles, or whatever you're called. Congratulations, bro. 3-peat. Well done, you big Gug. It's my favourite kids' book. Gug. Oh, piss off. Good job.
So that took me 1.5 minutes to do, and sometimes it's too difficult for people to do it. That's just me, like press record, say whatever. But that guy loved it. I'm like, all I did was just talk a bit of shit to the coach.
Oh, that's so funny. They appreciated that one.
Yeah, he loved it. But I'm like, some people are just fun. I'm no different to anybody, and
Why are you not on cameos? Why?
The thing is, Jackie, I'm aware that I've got a public job.
Yeah.
But that's I'm no different to anybody else. We in the media and people who have semi-high profile jobs, there can be some real wankers that are so entitled that expect everything, that we all breathe the same air. excepting you like live in Los Angeles or Shanghai, then like we all walk on the same surface. So what makes someone better than someone else? Because if COVID has taught us anything, every consistent thing has been stripped away. And even though like I'm obsessed with LeBron James, even though he's got this billion-dollar empire, he still wasn't allowed to leave his house. He still had to wear a mask. So it's like, if you've got a chance to impact someone's life, then you can. If someone comes up to me, a mother came up to me and said, "Oh, my son," I was in Shanghai actually for Port Adelaide, and this woman came up to me and she said, "Oh, my son really likes what you do at game day. Do you mind if I have a photo with you?" I'm like, "Do you have Wi-Fi?" She said, and I FaceTimed him. For me, I'm thinking, no one gives a crap who I am, but he was happy. You go, awesome. Just make a moment for him. It's fine.
That's sensational. Yeah, man. Ego. Glad you don't have it.
Well, I just think I've been surrounded by people. I love the fact that my three best mates, right, the godfathers of my eldest daughter, Rain. One of them is a plumber. The other one is a criminal lawyer. The other one works in finance, but I think he's in the mafia. To me, like, they are my best mates because they don't give a crap about what I do at all. The day that when I got into breakfast radio, it was a really traumatic time, and it should have been a brilliant time, and it was horrible. My wife got them all to come round and just sit down and just hang out with me. Like, it's the job titles, and I've said this to you in my workshops. Sometimes we are so defined by our job title in the industry we work in, but what happens when that is taken away? If you're so focused on your identity being the job title or the industry that you work in, how lost are you going to be when that's removed? So if there's no consistency in how you handle yourself as a human being, then you're going to find yourself really lost. And I've seen so many people in the media, all of my bosses have either separated from their families, had issues with substance abuse, still like living that radio life of bouncing around every city following that job. And I'm like, I don't want that. So there's a part of me that's really grateful for the shit leaders in my life to go, thank you for showing me the life that I don't want.
Exactly. And how I don't want to act.
Yeah, exactly.
Where was I going with that? So you mentioned, obviously we're talking about egos now. So whilst we're on the topic.
Yeah.
When you've dealt with someone difficult, and whether that is in an interview or whether that is a boss or a colleague or whatever it is, how have you managed those situations in a way that you've been really proud of or happy with, or conversely haven't been and gone, okay, well, better not do it that way next time?
It sounds strategic, and I guess there's a part of it that is in the industry that I work in. My objective is to be great at what I do on the microphone. That's like, so I've been hired because I'm good on the microphone. Apart from that, it's be good to work with, be grateful, be humble, and be a great team player. That is what, for me, defines my personal brand. So in Shanghai, and I'm not raising this to get bloody gloating or anything. In Shanghai, it was like 100 degrees. I was sweating from parts of my body I didn't know existed.
I'll go there.
And yeah, so I think I still am. So we had there was these at Jingwine Stadium, Adelaide Arena, there was the venue, and the venue was basically a bomb site. And there were these like cement seats. But I was watching the staff lay cushions out, and I watched Russell Ebert, who's a legend of the Port Adelaide Football Club, Richard Kelly, who was looking after corporate at the time, and Marg, who would be in her 70s, all in the heat setting up. And I was there for rehearsal, and then they're like, you can go explore Shanghai. And I walked over to them and said, we're part of a team here. I'm doing this. We spent 4 hours setting up. And I got to know them and got to understand what makes them tick as people. And we did it together. At any event, I always make sure I help set up, help back down, take stuff for people. If the camera operator's got heavy stuff, I'll carry it for them, because I've seen so many people that don't do that. And they walk in, charge a shitload, get their script, do an okay job, and they leave. And that's it. But it shouldn't be like that. So whenever I have moments where I go, like the old MC for Cricket Australia, for the Boomers in basketball, the Socceroos, I'm flying up to Brisbane on Sunday to film something for Cricket Australia. They could pick anyone in the country to do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that have a similar skill set to mine and are probably better MCs. That's fine. But for me, because I still go, why are you asking me to do this? I'm in Adelaide. You can just get someone in Brisbane to do it. But I go, well, maybe it's the way that I carry myself as a human being, which separates that. And I want people to go, like, the best feedback I've ever got, and I love getting two ones. One is, you're great to work with and you're really easy to work with. And the other part is, a guy said to me yesterday after filming something with him, he said, thank you for making me feel so comfortable to be part of this. And I go, that's all I want to do. So dealing with ego, when I see people with ego, I don't feed their ego, but I can tell straight away if someone is a really big fan of themselves. And I just think there will be a moment where you reflect on how you're carrying yourself and you will regret it.
Yeah. Jarrod, what is your purpose?
I think my purpose is to continually evolve. I think having kids is a really good lesson. Like, having kids is a really good reminder about how you are presenting as a person and how to continually grow. I see, like, I've got two young girls. So there's going to be times, obviously, when they're going through things that women go through in every facet of life. And I'm sure you agree with me, it would be very difficult to be a woman in so many ways. Absolutely. In a body sense, in a career sense, in an opportunity sense. And we're getting better. But that still sounds like a bit of a throwaway. We're getting better. We shouldn't be at a stage where we're getting better. We should be better. So when I work in women's sport, and like one of the most incredible moments working was at the Women's World Cup, the 85,000 people at the MCG. And I looked and I was teary because I'm like, this is more than a cricket match. This is an opportunity for women. And I've got daughters and I want them to have opportunity. Like, I see my daughters as a blank canvas, and my job as a parent is to just make sure they don't go over the lines too much, but they can design any kind of artwork that they like and they want to do. That's on them. I hopefully will just support them in the best way possible. So I think my purpose as a father and a parent is to be a place of safety and comfort and support and understanding. My purpose when it comes to work, that has shifted so dramatically over the past 12 months. I was pushed out of a job, which I'm now grateful for. If my former employer came back to me and said, come back to work, we'll pay you 3 times as much, I'd say no. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to be creative and to kind of make what I'm passionate about work. Leading into losing a job that I had for 16 years, one of the biggest fears was finance, identity, and just your normal struggles. They haven't come to fruition. It was the fear before the event which took over, but none of that happened. So I think, again, I'm sorry, it's a very long answer, but just to keep evolving in every way and to keep learning. The moment that we stop learning and growing as people, I think is the moment that you need to step back and go, well, what am I doing with my life? No one ever has the answers to anything. You have to keep evolving.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. So that's
so true. I used to be like the first voice in like, if we had a team meeting, a couple of the things I learned were like, first of all, on social media, we only follow people we like. That's just what happens. We follow Well, it sounds like there's a police officer coming to get. I live in Port Adelaide, so it's probably Crime Stoppers. It's just Nigel up there. Okay, so you can either be the first voice in the room or the last voice in the room. I'm trying to be the last voice in the room, because then I immerse myself in all these different opinions and I take them on board, and then I can go, I've listened to everything you've all said and I love it. I like that. Here's my view. And also, yeah, social media, we follow everyone that we like. I'm starting to follow people that I don't agree with, not necessarily to roll me up. Like sometimes I follow Piers Morgan because he's a pain in the ass, he's a dick. But people who just have contrasting opinions to you help you think a little bit differently. Social media can be really toxic in that sense, but as you said, like the more that we learn and be an agile learner, I think the better that we become. And it takes a lot of courage to do that too. To put your hand up and say, I don't have all the answers, I think is a true testament to a real leader. It's the ones who say, let's do what we've always done. They're the ones that will probably get unstuck.
That's right. And it's this way, and it's the only way.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't work anymore. Like,
that's right.
You imagine the guy that was running Blockbuster Video going, you know what, we're not going to invest in digital because VCRs are the way to go. And we are always going to do that. Well, mate, good luck plugging your VCR into your phone now, because that's definitely not going to work.
Brilliant. You run courses in communication.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that and why you started that.
I did a skills audit after I left radio. And I'm thinking, I was speaking to a counselor. So basically the counselor's name is Naomi, and the radio station assigned her to speak to everyone that was made redundant. And this is how the conversation went at the start. I'm really grateful for the people that had me at Nova. And she said, Jarrod, I'm just going to stop you. I don't work for Nova. I don't know anybody that you work with. I'm like, oh, great. So this boss was a real fuckwit. So let's just start again. So she actually, she's been great. And I still speak to her once a month as a bit of a coach, because a couple of things that she said. The most poignant thing she said to me was that in life, we are all in a car. So just imagine you're in a car. For probably the last 8 to 10 years of my career at Nova, I was in my car, but I wasn't driving it. I had someone else driving it. So I could be offering to go this way or this way, but they were the ones behind the wheel. But now I'm driving my own car, and people can sit in the passenger seat if they want, and they can say, I'd probably suggest you turn this way, and I can take on their view, but ultimately I'm the one dictating the direction I want to take. And from that, she said, the way that I speak to her and the way that I'm connected with people, and she said, you got to help people. Like, you've got a job to help people. She suggested, doing charity work, which I've started doing, volunteer work, which I do. And I just was thinking, okay, so I might just try something here. And I'm thinking maybe I'm going to do a workshop on communications. And I sat down. I kind of needed to understand my skill set about how I prepare and how I actually communicate. And then I worked out that I follow the same plan and philosophy to communicate, whether this is a one-on-one conversation or presenting to 100,000 people. So that's actually started me thinking, okay, I'm going to plan this all out. I needed something that would relate to people. And then I was at Encounter Bay, which is near Victor Harbour in South Australia. And I put an email out, and I put something on social media saying, hey, I'm thinking of putting on a workshop. Would anyone be interested? And it was full on. Like, I had within a week, 100 emails, and I'm checking my phone going, oh, another email. And it was, it was really overwhelming. But then I'm like, oh, I better do this now. Hey. So I had to build it, work out how to present it. And the first workshop, especially, I had the biggest case of imposter syndrome I've ever had in my life. I didn't get out of bed the next day, that after this first session, because I'm like, are these people connecting with this? I have no idea. But then I woke up the following night, and about 4 a.m, a woman who came to the workshop, Celeste, she emailed me this long email saying, I know we're a week in, but I just wanted to tell you the impact you've had on my life. I'm like, oh, wow. And then I ran into a guy, Braden, his dad at the footy, and his dad pulled me aside. I'm like, oh, what have I done here? I don't know you. And he's like, I just wanted to say you've changed my son's life. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So from that, it's continually growing. I'm working with some businesses and sports clubs. And from what I started originally thinking, maybe this is a media training of sorts, which I didn't want it to be. I've had 2 people that want to do radio come to my workshops, which I love, because what I help people understand is more than just communicating. It's all about connection. And the people who I've had the real fortune of working with, I feel my responsibility is helping people connect the dots in communication and connection. We all have the ability to communicate, but it's normalizing things like nerves and anxiety, and just actually providing a bit more clarity on you're never going to be solved, and you're never going to be not nervous. That's just part of it. But if you can understand why, and different techniques of how to engage in communication and conversation, and it's growing in a way that, like, I'll be honest with you, Jackie, I haven't once thought I want to do this to make money. I haven't once thought I want to do this to present to 100,000 people. There's no actual goal, but I'm saying if I'm getting continual emails from people, I'm like, great, it's time to put on another workshop. And then from that, it's growing quite steadily. I don't have like a long-term goal for it. Like I just love the opportunity to work with people, and I don't take for granted the trust I'm getting from people to help them on their journey.
It's evident that you don't see it as a moneymaker, because the amount of time that you've put in and communication before, during, and after the event was huge, and is actually quite surprising for me. I'm a big learner, love educating myself. So I've been a part of a lot of different workshops and weekends, and yeah, you definitely go above and beyond. So it's great, and I really recommend it.
Thank you.
This has been sensational. If anyone wants to know more about you, the workshop, where to find you, follow you, make memes about you, where can they find you?
If you go into OnlyFans /Jarrod Walsh, I'm joking. So if you go,
I don't have ego.
no, only that was a joke, because OnlyFans is the one where all the not kids, like all people go and like do homemade nudes and stuff. That's why I was joking.
And that's why I've got no idea. Duh.
You know, when you asked me about if anything ever falls flat, that was the moment. No, you can go on my website. And yeah, the communication thing for me is massive. Like people are trusting me because I think people again are looking for their purpose and looking for a little bit of help. And if I can do that, I don't take for granted that people are taking the time to get in touch with me. So I always think, some people are really crap at getting back to emails and stuff. And I just go, it takes like 5 minutes. Let's just do it. I could either go to bed right now or take a couple of minutes to get back to emails. And with the workshop, yeah, I'll email people, then I'll call them, then I'll give them continual updates on where we're at, what to start thinking about, what to prepare for, because it's, again, it's the trust that people are putting into me to help them. And I'm just, again, going to show that it's not something I take for granted. And it's something that I'll still check in with people after the workshop to go, it's not a TED talk where you go home and go, cool, you're never going to hear from me again. This is an ongoing thing. So yeah, jarrodwalsh.com.au is my website. There's stuff on there. And yeah, I've got social media and all that other stuff.
All that stuff. Excellent. Lastly, before I let you go, if there are people struggling out there with confidence and self-worth, from your experience, what are the things that they can do to start their journey to self-discovery and self-worthiness?
I think it's a really sensitive time now with we live in an era where we are told what's successful, we are told what's attractive, we are told what is right. This is all in the palm of our hands. I would be surprised if the number of children going through anxiety isn't through the roof at the moment, continually as well. I think it's having a moment of awkwardness and uncomfortable within yourself to step back and go, I really need to start understanding who I am as a person. That awkwardness and uncomfortable conversation you have with yourself can actually be translated into power, because this is what I did. And to connect with who I am as a person, every element of it allowed me to be comfortable with it and learn to live with it. And then you start seeing other people that aren't comfortable within who they are, and you go, wow, okay, I need to help them. But you need to be prepared to have that tough chat with yourself. And also, I think some of the biggest anxieties that we have are questions that can't be answered. So it's, I'm feeling like this, but then we don't follow on with why. So trying to understand those feelings, I think, is also a really important thing. And if you have a group of people that you trust, and that you feel are well equipped and prepared to have a real conversation. I don't speak to the guys I went to school with anymore. They weren't prepared to have real conversations, and I drifted away from them. And I don't regret that at all. Like, because we were at a point where we were in our mid-20s and we're having the same conversations we were having at high school. And I'm like, I need conversations of substance. I need people to have a bit of real talk and to go, things aren't too good at home. Let's talk about things. So I think finding your network of people that you can trust. For the people that don't have a network of people, it's important that you talk to someone. There's lots of professional help out there, 100%. And not feeling, you'd be surprised. I've got this video series that I created called Dadelaide. And the reason I created it is because men suffer postnatal depression almost more than women. We don't talk about it enough. It's really difficult being a mother. It's also equally as difficult being a father for so many different reasons. For the first 6 months of my eldest daughter's life, I didn't have a connection with her because all she wanted was boob and sleep. And I'm like, I'm working and I leave and she's asleep, and I get home, she's going to bed, and it was horrible. I felt like my 6-month-old didn't like me. And I started talking about it. So I created this series, Dadelaide, for men to talk about their feelings and to feel safe and to feel like there's a place of comfort to go, I'm feeling like this. Is this normal? And then other people start going, hey, thank you for talking about this because I feel this way too. It takes a lot of courage, but getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, I believe, turns into power.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Jarrod, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It's been an absolute pleasure.